Ryan Yamamoto. This is the minute. A semi-truck carrying 40,000 pounds of strawberries overturned in the South Bay. The crash caused traffic delays all morning in San Jose. This happened on the northbound 101 ramp to 880 just before 3 this morning. No injuries were reported. Scott Peterson is back in a San Mateo courtroom today to try to clear his name. The LA Innocence Project believes DNA evidence will clear him. It's been 22 years since Peterson was sentenced to life in prison without parole for the murders of his wife Lacey and their unborn son Connor. Opening statements begin today in the state trial for the man convicted of attacking Paul Pelosi. This comes a day after David DePape was resentenced to 30 years in prison in his federal case. DePape apologized for breaking into the Pelosi's home in San Francisco last year. The Bay Area's only primetime newscast at 8 and 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus 44 Cable 12.
We have sunny skies as we head into this afternoon. Our weather headlines have been so nice for us today. We had a nice, clear, cool morning into the afternoon hours. Daytime highs are sitting above average, and we're actually going to continue to watch that trend with heat building into our inland areas throughout the next couple days. We'll be right back to normal as we head into this weekend. Temperatures back to average. But what's happening right now is high pressure sitting just offshore, and this is kind of creating almost like a heat dome for us just over the Bay Area. So we're going to feel a lot warmer, very summer-like as we head into the next couple days, and we notice it already today. Another thing to add too, it's dry out there, and we're sitting in that medium to high category for our pollen count. So just keep that in mind if you are sensitive to allergies. Let's head into those daytime highs though. 70s in the forecast today in San Francisco with sunny skies all above us, especially off into the East Bay and up into Santa Rosa, both sitting in the upper 80s in the forecast for us. We'll almost see 90s just right around the corner as we head into next week. We'll have more on that as we get closer, but stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley, this heat is definitely going to be felt widespread throughout the Bay Area, and it's just starting today. We'll see more of it into the forecast starting tomorrow. Let's head over into our 7-day forecast now. Upper 80s today. Tomorrow it starts to average out just a little bit as we head into this weekend's forecast, back to the low 80s with still plenty of sunshine into Saturday. Some partly cloudy skies rolling in early next week. As early as next Tuesday, though, that's our next little heat wave that we are anticipating. It's going to be a warm one for us, and that's where we could see some 90s returning into our inland areas like San Jose, stretching all the way off into the East Bay near Antioch. Now, if you live close to the Bay, we're also getting our fair share of sunshine today and tomorrow, but those clouds start rolling in just a little bit sooner. Partly cloudy skies into this weekend's forecast, mostly cloudy skies to kick off that June gloom setup into next week. We'll keep you updated on that forecast here in the Weather Center.
Well, it took almost 2 decades and spanned thousands of miles, but the search for a violent felon is over. Investigators say the so-called bad breath rapists have been hiding out in the Danville area for years. Our Lauren Toms talked to a member of the task force that finally tracked him down.
Chris Tamayo is tasked with tracking down violent fugitives as part of the U.S. Marshals Service. And earlier this year, when he received a call from authorities in Massachusetts that a convicted rapist may be hiding out in the Bay Area, he stepped in.
Someone who's been on the run for 17 years has probably gotten pretty comfortable. It's unique that there hasn't been additional crimes that maybe we haven't seen, especially with something as violent as it was.
In 2007, Twen Kit Lee was convicted of violently raping a coworker just outside Boston. He fled the state before his sentencing. 17 years later, Tamayo played a role in his arrest 3,000 miles away. The case had gone cold, he says, but it's the investigators who caught a break in a social media post several months ago that tipped them off to his potential presence in Danville.
Cold cases, they get so gruesome that sometimes you just want to give up. You think you've done everything, you think you've interviewed everyone, you think there's nothing left to do. And it just takes that effort for someone to just keep pushing.
According to a news release from the Massachusetts State Police, which placed a $10,000 bounty on Lee, investigators connected him to the owner of a multi-million-dollar home in Danville that was owned by a female flower shop owner believed to be his partner, who authorities say had no idea of Lee's violent past. After quietly pulling him over on Diablo Road near an elementary school, Tamayo says he initially provided fake names, but ultimately confessed.
There was a moment of denial for him, I think in shock, where he, didn't really want to say who he was, but he knew the gig was up.
In 2005, CBS News Boston reported that Lee was arrested after one of his restaurant employees alleged that he had broken into her home, tied her to a bed, and raped her. He was identified for one key feature and later confirmed through DNA.
The victim later told police the attacker wore a ski mask, but there was something familiar about him. His breath, bad breath.
That characteristic dubbed him the bad breath rapist. Authorities have released limited information about how he spent the last 15 years or how they pieced together the arrest.
Was able to kind of continue in his ways, being a quiet person who, worked some odd jobs to lay low.
Tamayo says he expects members of this quiet community to feel a sense of shock, but he hopes they can rest easy knowing Lee is no longer a threat. But the work, he says, still continues.
While we all take a moment to appreciate what we had, that this was safe, we all just now have to move on to the next case because there's many more people that need to be arrested and many more that, want justice.
He will remain in police custody in Danville. He'll eventually be extradited back to Massachusetts. An East Bay Police Department that's no stranger to scrutiny is now facing a federal lawsuit. Pittsburgh police are being sued over an incident at a hotel 2 years ago where a man armed with a knife was shot. He claims he was suffering a mental health crisis at the time. And at the center of all of it is a former police officer who has been named in another lawsuit in the past. Our Kevin Coe looks at the allegations.
It sounds like you don't feel safe right now.
I don't.
This body camera footage provided by Lawyers for the People shows Ashton Porter going through what a new federal lawsuit claims is a mental health crisis at a Hampton Inn in Pittsburgh. The lawsuit claims Porter locked himself in his hotel room and refused to come out.
It's about to get a whole lot worse for you, man. At any point in time you want to listen to what I've been trying to tell you, we're going to make sure that you come out and everything's safe. And I can make you a lot more comfortable. But the longer you don't listen to me, the worse it's going to get for you. You understand?
The body camera video shows the battered door to Porter's hotel room after officers tried breaking in. The man speaking is Lieutenant William Hatcher, one of 4 law enforcement officers named in the lawsuit, along with the city of Pittsburgh.
I've been nothing but honest with you, so I'm telling you right now. I know, but I don't feel safe.
Body camera footage shows officers deploying tear gas into Porter's room. Porter eventually walks out before he's shot by rubber bullets and shot by then Officer Ernesto Mejia Orozco's firearm.
Shot fire, one down. Where's the knife?
According to the lawsuit, Mejia Orozco told investigators Porter was sprinting down the hallway directly at him with a knife, while Porter's lawyer says body camera footage does not support the claim, and that Porter was holding his hands above his head.
It almost cost this man his life, and this woman, her husband, and these kids, their father.
Attorney Adante Pointer and Porter sat side by side on Tuesday, speaking about the lawsuit filed in U.S. District Court.
I'm just taking it one day at a time, just trying to get back to a normal day-to-day with my life. I mean, this has been so much of a mental drain on me for the past 2 years.
We reached out to the city attorney and city manager of Pittsburgh, but they did not respond for comment.
Mejia Orozco, the officer who's accused of shooting Porter, is also part of a high-profile police scandal. He was one of a number of officers or former officers in Antioch and Pittsburgh facing federal indictment. He was arrested by federal agents last year and was accused of being part of a scheme where officers allegedly claimed they earned college degrees to receive education bonuses, but hired people to attend classes and take tests for them. And in a separate incident in 2020, the city of Pittsburgh paid out a $7.3 million settlement to a family of a man who died after Mejia Orozco put him in a chokehold. And still ahead on CBS News Bay Area, as artificial intelligence gets better and better, how state lawmakers are trying to regulate the technology. Plus, the days of trains rolling into this Antioch station are numbered. The concern about what the closure could mean for commuters and the city.
Our entire vision for downtown was shaped around this Amtrak station.
And how community members in San Jose are coming together to paint a brighter future for the downtown area.
Coolest microclimate today is in the valleys of the North Bay, where the fog is still hanging on. This environment lets us take our viewers inside the weather. Microclimates, the fog, the rain, we can explain in 3 dimensions and show you what's going to happen. The offshore wind on our real-time map showing that east to west movement. The way everyone else is doing weather on television is like riding on horseback. This is space travel.
Virtual weather on KPIX. You've just got to see it.
Breezy conditions are expected for us heading into this afternoon along our coastline, and we've been seeing this trend all week long. Wind speeds anywhere up to around 35 to 40 miles per hour near Bodega Bay. Breezy conditions into San Francisco with wind speeds topping off close to around 25 miles per hour. That onshore flow will stay apparent for us as we head into the next couple days, but the big weather story for us has to do with all this warmth. Today we're sitting in the 70s near San Francisco, 70s across the Bay Bridge over in Oakland. You continue to head off into the east, and suddenly you're warming up close to the 90s. Santa Rosa all the way up in the North Bay today, getting to 87 degrees. And we're going to continue to watch the summer-like pattern really develop as we head into the next couple weeks, with more warmth in sight for us and daytime highs sitting well above average throughout most of the Bay Area.
Well, in San Francisco, Governor Gavin Newsom is joining tech, education, and other labor leaders at the Palace of Fine Arts today to speak at the Generative AI Summit. Generative AI, for those who aren't familiar, is a type of artificial intelligence that's able to generate text or other media, normally from just a prompt. The summit begins today, runs through Friday. And many of the concerns that the general public has about AI will be discussed at that summit. In fact, California lawmakers are actually making a push out to regulate state agencies use it, including the one that oversees self-driving cars. Our Kenny Choi gives us a look.
Jean-Paul Margadichian is working as a ride-hailing driver to make ends meet.
This job is actually barely minimum wage after you factor in expenses.
He's a software engineer who has worked for startups.
Right now I don't have a job. That's the only reason I'm driving. I'm between jobs.
The flexibility of driving for Lyft and Uber allows him to pursue laying the foundation for his next endeavor. He's well aware of how AI advancements, including the proliferation of driverless cars, is impacting gig workers.
We've seen with all of the past industrial revolutions, yes, there were tons of jobs that were eliminated, but ultimately we as a civilization have grown. There's new jobs that are created.
Lawmakers are trying to keep pace. The AI Accountability Act bill, SB 896, introduced by State Senator Bill Dodd, guides the decision-making of state agencies related to automated technologies. One provision in the bill would require state agencies to notify users when they are interacting with AI.
The legislature is famous for passing bills on businesses and everybody else, but yet is not a leader in the area and does not enact those same initiatives on itself.
Ahmed Banafa is a professor of engineering at San Jose State. He believes legislation like this is a necessary starting point for the government, AI companies, and consumers with so much uncertainty in the vastly changing AI world.
Having all the three parties together will help make sure that the AI is responsible and safe.
I think that AI will enable more people to raise in their order of functioning, and all of these repetitive, dangerous, exhausting, body stressful tasks will over time eventually go away and be replaced by machines.
Moghadishian is more than comfortable with the rapid advancements in artificial intelligence, believing in its potential rather than its downside.
Well, the AI Accountability Act also encourages the state to invest in AI education and build AI competency in the state's workforce. In San Francisco, SFMTA is getting nearly $5 million in federal funding for upgrades to its Muni service. It's all part of the Biden administration's infrastructure law. San Francisco is one of 8 transit systems in 8 different states that are receiving grants to modernize its transit stations and make accessibility improvements. In Antioch, some people are worried about losing an important transit option. They're fighting a plan to close the Antioch-Pittsburgh Amtrak station. The platform in downtown Antioch is set to shut down next year to make way for the opening of a new station in Oakley. And as our Wilson Walker reports, there's concern the closure could cost the city in more ways than one.
The last time it came, it was like here and gone.
April Hill has come to the Antioch-Pittsburgh train station to send a visiting friend back to the San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah, I will. Bye-bye.
And she knows it probably won't be long before Antioch says farewell to its downtown train station. The plan is to open another stop to the east in downtown Oakley, and when that stop is open, the Antioch stop will be decommissioned. Hill says it has already been scaled back to the bare minimum.
Yeah, a few years. They have gotten rid of the benches and the ticketing kiosk, it looks like. It wasn't like really nice before, but now it's even emptier.
For starters, it's a loss for Antioch passengers and a loss for a downtown which many see as improving. And then there is a potentially larger cost.
Our entire vision for downtown was shaped around this Amtrak station.
Mayor Lamar Hernandez-Thorpe is talking about how state and federal dollars for affordable housing are often tied to transit corridors.
It literally cuts developers off certain funding that they could get, or subsidies that they can get from both the federal and state funding, because we will no longer have a major transportation hub in downtown Antioch.
The San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission says it has been planning this move since 2017, citing issues with homelessness and vandalism. The commission also says the distance between Antioch and Oakley does not allow for both stops.
You know, we've talked to our congressman, they're involved. They've talked to our assembly member, he's involved. But at the end of the day, this is not an Amtrak issue. This is a San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority issue. They have the power to reopen and reactivate our train station.
As the date draws closer, local citizens have been building a campaign to stop the closure, but even the mayor says that at this point, a change of direction is unlikely.
I don't think we can probably change their mind. I think they changed their mind a few years ago.
Now, Antioch is trying to set up a new kind of transit hub to maintain eligibility for those housing dollars. What is the time frame here? Well, Amtrak thinks construction will start in Oakley sometime in October of this year. That'll take about a year. So barring any unforeseen circumstances, it looks like Antioch's last train will leave the station sometime in late 2025.
Well, now to the peninsula, where politicians are calling this California's most dangerous train crossing. It's the Caltrain track at California Broadway in Burlingame. Senator Josh Becker says the problem here is that it's a crowded corridor and the sequence of the lights is backing up traffic.
Literally, we did this whole press conference. I'm walking away and there's a car with its rear end stuck on the tracks at a red light.
There have been 13 collisions there since 2016. 2 of them have been deadly. The project will lift the train over the roadway. Construction could start next year. Still ahead, we're highlighting a trailblazer breaking cultural and gender norms in sports.
If not me, then who? If not me, that helps change the behavior and what people think, then who?
Meet a local woman bringing and working to bring Major League sports to the Bay Area while also creating a way forward for people of color and women in sports.
Now you can get your KPIX news, weather, and live stream all in one place on the CBS News app. Download it free today.
This midweek warm-up is felt all throughout the Bay Area. We're expecting upper 80s today near Santa Rosa, low 80s into Napa, with 70s near San Francisco, across the Bay Bridge over into Oakland. Now, as we head off into the East Bay even more, we're actually anticipating close to 90s in the forecast this afternoon in areas like Walnut Creek and Concord, stretching off into Antioch. We cool down a little bit as we head into this weekend's forecast to gear up for our next little heat wave that starts next week. So let's take a look at that on our 7-day models. Looking at this week alone, lots of sunshine is expected for us, so continue to hydrate and wear plenty of sunscreen if you do have any outdoor activities. Watch what happens into this weekend. Those partly cloudy skies kind of roll their way back in to kick off early next week with some low 80s, but then we jump right back up into the upper 80s, low 90s by next Tuesday heading into Wednesday. That's our inland areas though. If you don't live close to Concord or if you don't live close to Fremont, maybe you live close to the Bay, this is what we're expecting. That warm up will start to cool down just a smidge into this weekend, upper 60s flirting with some low 70s, and then heading into mid next week, those upper 70s return as early as Tuesday with partly cloudy skies.
Well, this month we are highlighting AAPI leaders who are making an impact all around the Bay Area, including those who are trailblazers in their industries and for their communities. We first introduced you to the CEO of the Bay Area Host Committee earlier this year. It's a busy time for the organization, bringing 3 major sporting events to the Bay in the next 2 years. The best basketball players in the world will come to Chase Center next year for the NBA All-Star Game. And 2026 will be a big year at Levi's Stadium. It will host the Super Bowl as well as several FIFA World Cup matches. Our Sean Chitna shows us how the woman leading that sports effort balances her work and home life while trying to mentor others.
What looks like a typical afternoon on a Bay Area playfield with a soccer mom proudly watching her son at practice is only scratching the surface of a day in the life of Zaylene Jun Mohammed.
There are actually days that I wake up where I actually think I have a plan and that plan goes way, way off and I'm doing something completely different.
That's because when she's not busy parenting 2 young sons, including coaching them on their soccer skills, she's preparing for the World Cup and the Super Bowl and an All-Star Game. Zaylene never knows what a new week will bring as the president and CEO of the Bay Area Host Committee.
It's hard to juggle all of the jobs. The mom one is definitely the most important, and I have to remember that every single day, that there's a priority for me, and this one is the priority.
Born and raised in Canada, her family is originally from India and lived in East Africa before moving west. They were not prepared to see their daughter pick up ice hockey as a young child.
It wasn't normal for my parents. They didn't expect that I would grow up and even at the ages of 5 and 6 want to play sports. But for some reason, I did. And so that was what I enjoyed and where I had a lot of passion.
From that passion began the pursuit of a career in sports. At first, she thought being a PE teacher would be the best way to play all day. But she kept dreaming and found a new goal in life, to go pro as an ice hockey player.
Even if my parents were okay with it, which they were eventually, it was what the others were going to say around them that made them a little bit apprehensive.
Zaylene kept playing hockey through college, but eventually settled on the business side of sports, working for professional leagues, marketing companies, and an Olympic organizing committee, all preparing her for the position she has today.
I have a phrase that I say to myself a lot, which is like, you have to be really good to be lucky, but you also have to be lucky to be good.
Zaylene feels a responsibility to pay it forward, to help other young women looking for a foothold in this industry, a reminder of how she got started.
I have to do it because somebody did it for me. And my hope is that instead of 1 email a week, I get 4 or 5.
So while it may have gotten easier, she's still working just as hard to get more women on her team, becoming leaders in sports.
If not me, then who? If not me that helps change the behavior and what people think, then who?
And for more on our stories highlighting the Bay Area's AAPI communities, just head to kpix.com. You can also watch our special Roots and Resilience on our website. You can find it on the homepage under the AAPI section. The special is also on our YouTube channel, and you can click there to get right to our homepage as well. Coming up our next half hour, CBS News Bay Area, San Jose Street turns into a giant community canvas. How thousands are teaming up to give a pop of color to this downtown destination.
One of the things that's most important about this is that the community has ownership of what we're doing here. It goes beyond me. This is for the city.
It's kind of like having your kid go off to college, right?
And the world's largest digital camera is ready to explore the mysteries of the universe, the tricky mission to move it from the Bay Area to the Andes. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is The Minute. A man convicted of kidnapping and rape more than 16 years ago in Massachusetts now under arrest in the Bay Area. Investigators say twin Kit Lee was found guilty in a 2007 trial but fled before sentencing. Police got a tip he had been hiding out in the Danville area for years. Fallout after pro-Palestinian protests at San Jose State, Professor Sang Hee Kil is on administrative leave over her role in the demonstrations. A letter accuses the professor of violating university policies and encouraging student encampments. She denies the allegations. And Milpitas police say a mountain lion has been spotted around a mobile home park this morning. This grainy Ring camera video shows the mountain lion on Dixon Landing Road near the BART tracks. Police say they deployed drones to try to track it down but could not find it. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is The Minute.
We have sunny skies as we head into this afternoon. Our weather headlines have been so nice for us today. We had a nice, clear, cool morning into the afternoon hours. Daytime highs are sitting above average, and we're actually going to continue to watch that trend with heat building into our inland areas throughout the next couple days. We'll be right back to normal as we head into this weekend. Temperatures back to average. But what's happening right now is high pressure sitting just offshore, and this is kind of creating almost like a heat dome for us just over the Bay Area. So we're going to feel a lot warmer, very summer-like as we head into the next couple days, and we notice it already today. Another thing to add too, it's dry out there, and we're sitting in that medium to high category for our pollen count. So just keep that in mind if you are sensitive to allergies. Let's head into those daytime highs though. 70s in the forecast today in San Francisco with sunny skies all above us, especially off into the East Bay and up into Santa Rosa, both sitting in the upper 80s in the forecast for us. We'll almost see 90s just right around the corner as we head into next week. We'll have more on that as we get closer, but stretching down into the Santa Clara Valley, this heat is definitely going to be felt widespread throughout the Bay Area, and it's just starting today. We'll see more of it into the forecast starting tomorrow. Let's head over into our 7-day forecast now. Upper 80s today. Tomorrow it starts to average out just a little bit as we head into this weekend's forecast, back to the low 80s with still plenty of sunshine into Saturday. Some partly cloudy skies rolling in early next week. As early as next Tuesday, though, that's our next little heat wave that we are anticipating. It's going to be a warm one for us, and that's where we could see some 90s returning into our inland areas like San Jose, stretching all the way off into the East Bay near Antioch. Now, if you live close to the Bay, we're also getting our fair share of sunshine today and tomorrow, but those clouds start rolling in just a little bit sooner. Partly cloudy skies into this weekend's forecast, mostly cloudy skies to kick off that June gloom setup into next week. We'll keep you updated on that forecast here in the Weather Center.
Well, we hear a lot about Bay Area cities hoping to make their downtowns more vibrant, and in San Jose, they are taking that literally. Just like San Francisco and Oakland, San Jose's downtown struggled with the transition to hybrid work. Its office vacancy rate was more than 35% of the first quarter of the year. That's according to the commercial real estate firm Savills. But a University of Toronto study ranks San Jose second on its nationwide list tracking downtown recoveries. This is based on cell phone activity. And our Max Darrow recently reported while it still may be quiet during workday hours, weeknights are a different story. The owner of Sushi Confidential at San Pedro Square told him the restaurant and nightclub industries are thriving. Take a look at this. Hundreds of volunteers are coming together to paint the pavement near San Pedro Square. This new community mural runs along the stretch of San Pedro Street, which the city closed to cars during the pandemic. It's since become a permanent pedestrian mall. And as our Len Ramirez shows us, the artist behind it came up with a creative way to get people involved in bringing some color back to their city.
It's one of the largest mural projects ever to take place in San Jose, and it's happening in the street. A giant community canvas, all under the watchful eye of lead artist Jimmy Paints.
All the paint has been done by volunteers. So I think one of the things that's most important about this is that the community has ownership of what we're doing here. You know, it's not just me. This is for the city. This is for the people. We got the teal, orange, black, and white.
Jimmy grew up in East San Jose and says his art was influenced by the community around him.
Because people are, going and coming from the Sharks games. This is going to be kind of like an entryway for that. So that's why I chose these colors for this section.
He was selected by the nonprofit Local Color and the San Jose Downtown Association, which are sponsoring the block-long mural.
The title of this is Threads Woven, and it's based on on a sarape blanket pattern. But what I wanted to do was kind of take the idea of a sarape with the lines and colors involved, and kind of have that morph, evolve with lines and shapes intersecting and overlapping that represent the diverse cultures and community within San Jose.
San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan and several city council members gave volunteers a helping hand with paintbrushes and rollers. The project has an economic, not just artistic purpose, with the goal of helping to breathe life back into one of the most important tax-generating districts in the city. Earlier this year, the street was permanently closed to car traffic to make it an inviting, pedestrian-friendly location.
Creating a space that's safe, that's clean, that's vibrant, that has public art is one way that the city can help facilitate that rebound, support our small businesses and diverse entrepreneurs, and really ensure that our best days are ahead of us.
Many of the volunteers are people who come to San Pedro Street to eat, drink, and shop. Mo Hamilton works for a local tech company and took the time to lay down one piece of this kaleidoscope of color.
I'm here every weekend, so I said, why not be part of it? So I am paying my tribute to the community.
Jimmy Paints is currently working towards his art degree with the goal of one day teaching.
I hope this is inspiration and motivation for young artists to continue pursuing their creative path, and that there will be opportunities for them to share their art.
And with this project, he already has one big lesson already under his belt.
Well, Len tells us the project will be finished tomorrow, and San Pedro Street businesses are still open while the mural is being completed. Well, today we want to show you the world's largest digital camera. It was designed by Stanford scientists to explore the mysteries of the universe, taking pictures that could revolutionize astronomy. But first, it had to go on a very long and risky road trip all across the globe. It just recently completed that journey from the SLAC National Accelerator Lab in Menlo Park to the Andes Mountains in Chile, where it will sit on top of the Pancho or Cerro Pachon Ridge. I believe I got that right. Of course, this is some pretty important, delicate equipment to move. Brian Hackney shows us how they pulled it off.
All right, we are hanging free here, guys.
Inside this room, the world's largest digital camera is finishing off 10 years of construction.
Bingo.
Destination, universe. Margot Lopez has spent 5 years preparing for one day, the day the camera is finally shipped off.
I personally am really interested in this project because it really feels to me like a progression in astrophysics and for the sake of curiosity.
But first, it somehow has to get from Stanford to this remote mountaintop in Chile.
It's kind of like having your kid go off to college, right? It's exciting. It's also a lot of anxiety that goes along with it, too.
Travis Lang is the camera project manager, and this is not like shipping something on Amazon.
All the crates, they're all color-coded. So we're going to see a whole bunch of different color codes. And that helps us when we're at the airports so that things get on the correct trucks.
We've got a number of trucks coming to SLAC. So day one, we're going to have 6 trucks come, and we're going to load all of the crates, 2 of the containers, get them all to the airport that day. Then the next day at 4 in the morning, we need to load the camera container onto a truck and take it to the airport.
And this is the LSSD camera.
We were the last to get a look at the camera inside its 20-foot shipping container, sitting on springs to cushion the ride.
All of this equipment is going to travel on a 747 freighter.
That meant a late-night trip to SFO, maybe the riskiest part of the journey on 280 to the airport. Unloading at SFO, reloading onto a 747 cargo jet, liftoff for a 10-hour flight to Santiago, and landing at 4:10 a.m. at the airport in Chile. The camera container loaded onto its own transport vehicle, and then 9 trucks drove in a slow convoy to the guarded gate at the base of the observatory.
It's at that point we turn off of the main highway, and it is a 35-kilometer dirt road up to the summit facility. That we will go very, very slow.
The trip up took 5 hours, and after the camera was pulled out and when it gets set up, it will take the most detailed time lapse of the universe that we have ever seen.
In the first year, we're going to collect more data than every other telescope combined has ever collected in the history of astronomy, which is wild. We're more than doubling the amount of knowledge available.
But before it all got underway, it took these technicians 10 years to build, and Margot and company 5 years to plan. The trip from crate to container, from here to eternity. At least, that's the next stop.
And the camera will eventually be installed on the observatory's dome and attached to a telescope. Scientists will spend several months testing it. Then late this year, the observatory plans to begin a decade-long study of the universe by generating a panorama of the southern sky every few nights. Up next, we introduce you to a man making waves with his unique solution to cut down on pollution in our local ports.
These are your neighborhoods. This is your world. CBS News Bay Area.
And still ahead on KPI.
With Juliette Goodrich. And the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell. Taking you to the day's top stories. Smart, comprehensive coverage. And immersive weather like you have never seen it. Join Juliette Goodrich and Nora O'Donnell. Weeknights 6 to 7:30 on KPIX.
Conditions are expected for us heading into this afternoon along our coastline, and we've been seeing this trend all week long. Wind speeds anywhere up to around 35 to 40 miles per hour near Bodega Bay. Breezy conditions into San Francisco with wind speeds topping off close to around 25 miles per hour. That onshore flow will stay apparent for us as we head into the next couple days, but the big weather story for us has to do with all this warmth. Today we're sitting in the 70s near San Francisco, 70s across the Bay Bridge over in Oakland. You continue to head off into the east, and suddenly you're warming up close to the 90s. Santa Rosa all the way up in the North Bay today, getting to 87 degrees. And we're going to continue to watch the summer-like pattern really develop as we head into the next couple weeks, with more warmth in sight for us and daytime highs sitting well above average throughout most of the Bay Area.
Well, the Port of Oakland says it's hoping to go green. It just applied for a $417 million federal grant to convert its cargo handling operations to zero emissions. The money will be used to replace everything from trucks and tractors to front-end loaders and forklifts. And when it comes to cutting down on pollution, there's a type that's often overlooked, but it has a huge impact on emissions from ports. Itai Hod shows us how one man's mission to fight climate change is making waves at the Port of Oakland and beyond with a device that could be likened to a giant vacuum cleaner.
For more than 2 decades, Mike Walker worked his way to the top of the tech world, earning a mid-6-figure salary as the CEO of several successful startups.
How deep are the spuds right now?
But even though he was living the dream, something was missing.
It's super important to find the reason why you want to do something.
His latest venture, Stacks, might just be the holy grail of business, making money out of thin air while also saving the planet. For the last couple of years, Mike and his team have been on a mission against emissions. His company builds green barges like this one that essentially serve as giant vacuum cleaners, capturing exhausts from container ships while they're berthed at port.
This is our boom. It's 245 feet. It extends itself up and over the vessel, where a long elephant-like trunk comes down, and we put that over the top of the stack, and that's where the emissions are gathered.
A 2020 study done in Spain showed 265,000 premature deaths were attributed to global shipping emissions. State regulations require vessels to plug into an electrical grid known as shore power, which allows ships to turn off their engines while at berth. But that's not always possible.
Any given year, we see around over 8,000 vessel visits.
Angela Chendesh is the Air Resources Supervisor at the California Air and Resources Board. She says the problem is many of these ships are too old and don't have the infrastructure to connect to a power grid.
We do see as a very good alternative for vessels to use it if they don't want to invest into shore power.
Today, Mike and his team are helping a vessel whose electrical outlet is too far to reach. A massive bendable arm is deployed from the barge and hovers over the ship. An engineer then connects it to the smokestack like a giant range hood. Within seconds, the black smoke is gone.
We get to see in very clear terms the smoke going away from being distributed out into the air and being captured into these systems. So it's a really, almost instant gratification.
Sailing towards a sustainable future while trying to keep our planet on course.
And coming up, we're highlighting an author telling the stories of Bay Area Filipinos. Algie's putting her culture into the pages of a book.
I would like to see the headlines that the national press picks up on and say, look, there's another side to the Bay Area.
We take those headlines a little step further to sort of connect all these wonderful communities here.
The Bay Area is full of some amazing, innovative change makers, some people who are not giving up. They're going forward.
In fact, I feel privileged that I get to share those stories.
Wake up with the Morning Edition, weekdays on KPIX.
This midweek warm-up is felt all throughout the Bay Area. We're expecting upper 80s today near Santa Rosa, low 80s into Napa, with 70s near San Francisco, across the Bay Bridge over into Oakland. Now, as we head off into the East Bay even more, we're actually anticipating close to 90s in the forecast this afternoon in areas like Walnut Creek and Concord, stretching off into Antioch. We cool down a little bit as we head into this weekend's forecast to gear up for our next little heat wave that starts next week. So let's take a look at that on our 7-day models. Looking at this week alone, lots of sunshine is expected for us, so continue to hydrate and wear plenty of sunscreen if you do have any outdoor activities. Watch what happens into this weekend. Those partly cloudy skies kind of roll their way back in to kick off early next week with some low 80s, but then we jump right back up into the upper 80s, low 90s by next Tuesday heading into Wednesday. That's our inland areas though. If you don't live close to Concord, or if you don't live close to Fremont, maybe you live close to the Bay, this is what we're expecting. That warm up will start to cool down just a smidge into this weekend. Upper 60s flirting with some low 70s, and then heading into mid next week, those upper 70s return as early as Tuesday with partly cloudy skies.
Well, Filipino Americans are the second largest group among Asian Americans in the United States, yet their stories often go untold. Ann Makovic introduces us to a North Bay author who put the raw emotion of a common immigration story into print.
May Respicio is a typical Filipina-American girl raised in the Bay Area, but those who came before her didn't have it so easy. May is part of the first generation of her family to be born in the U.S.
When I was growing up, there were never any books that featured a Filipino or Filipino-American protagonist, ever, not a single one. And things are changing a little bit, luckily, but we still need more of those books.
So she decided to write one. It started as a novel that included 12 poems because the signature character, Isabel, is 12 years old. And the story is written from the experience of generations before May, children whose mothers moved to America and worked until they could send for their families. She reads from her book a poem called No More Goodbyes.
The flight attendant leads me out, bodies and faces, my wobbly legs, my trembly heart, scanning for her.
The raw emotion of a preteen adjusting to a brand new world. Though May's life is a little simpler than that of her main characters, the process of finding yourself is universal.
When I was growing up as a kid, I think there were times when I felt caught between two worlds. So this story is very much about belonging and trying to figure out where you fit in. And for me, growing up as a kid in California, but within a very traditional Filipino household, there were those moments where I wasn't sure where I fit in or which world to belong to.
Part of her story takes place in San Francisco's Botanical Gardens, where she and her fictional character spent time growing up. Her book uses many metaphors of plants.
This character learning to grow, and she's got this wonderful garden inside of her, and by the very end of the book, she learns to bloom. And she learns that you can bloom wherever you're planted.
And as May's book blossomed, she realized it needed to change too. She went from writing a book of prose with a little poetry to a book of all poems.
The poetry was such a powerful vehicle for such a tender story that I really wanted to go with that.
Including a poem called Home.
I walk with my grandfather through 1,000 shades of green, plants dressed in dew, flowers flooded in light, as birds fill the trees with their wild, loud songs.
Just one of many songs that May and others in the Filipino community are ready to sing.
Again, for more stories highlighting the Bay Area's AAPI communities, head to kpix.com. You can also watch our special Roots and Resilience on our website and on our YouTube page. Turning to Oakland now, where we are less than a week away from the Ballers making their home debut in front of a sold-out crowd next week. Ballers are off to a 3-4 start this inaugural season. The team is on the road in Colorado before heading back to Oakland for next Tuesday's home opener against the YOLO High Wheelers. Chopper got a look at Ramonde Park yesterday afternoon, looking pretty good. Crews are putting on the finishing touches on the Ballers' new 4,000-seat stadium. The team's invested more than $1.6 million on renovations to the park. And this season, you can catch the Ballers on Friday night on Pix Plus 44 Cable 12. That is the first televised game is a week from Friday, June 7th at 6:30. You can also win the chance to see the Ballers in person. We're giving away a family 4-pack to their games on June 7th and the 14th. at Ramonde Park. Just go to our website at kpix.com to enter. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. We'll be right back with your First Alert forecast and a look at your top stories.